Okay, first thing we'll do is a disassembly of the Smith. Then we'll do some close-up pictures. Push in on your barrel retaining shroud pin. Turn your barrel out. When you reassemble, you push that all the way in also, then tighten your barrel down. If you don't, you put undue wear on the latch, and you put undue wear on the ratchets on the inside of the shroud. Turn your barrel over, pop your pin, watch that your end cap doesn't shoot across the room, pull out your spring, your guide, and your end caps. Bring the bolt all the way back, slide the bolt out. That's all the disassembly you need to do for cleaning. Every 2,000 or 3,000 rounds you can flush a nozzle of brake cleaner or carburetor cleaner down into the sear slot. It'll flow forward and come out on the bottom side of the magazine well, and it'll flush any contaminants out. Unless you're experiencing difficulty, there's no need to pull the gun any farther apart than this. The only difference between this Smith & Wesson clone and an original Smith & Wesson is the bolt. Number one, you'll have your two driving bands for the stemple receiver that we're using, and number two, the extractor was positioned at the 2 o'clock instead at the dead center 12 o'clock like the regular Smith & Wesson. What that allows is when your cartridge is ejected, it just flips off of the extractor. Instead of, if it was at the 12 o'clock position, it tears off, and then your far left corner of the extractor begins to wear and break off. This will give some longevity to the system. One good point: do not ever use the Russian steel case ammunition. It's no cheaper in the long run than this brass case stuff. All it does is wear your chamber, it wears your extractor and your ejector and your bolt face. It's not worth, even if it was free, it's not worth shooting. The next big thing to remember on a Smith is same thing as on a Tommy gun, as a matter of fact. Your trigger is directly connected to your sear. When you pull the trigger, the sear buries. If you pull the trigger just enough to allow the rounds to go forward, the bolt to go forward and fire, then it's dragging on the bottom side of the bolt. If it starts dragging on the bottom side of the bolt, it'll slow the bolt down and it'll interfere with extraction and ejection. So if you have those problems crop up, retest fire by burying the trigger, letting it go. Bury the trigger, let it go. All the guns were tested with white box, Winchester, 9mm, 121 grains. Okay, that's about it. I'll shut the camera off and then we'll get some close-up pictures. Okay, some close-up pictures. You have your safe, semi, fire is your full auto, SW76 in your serial number. Special weapons build all of the parts, consequently the SW. The guns are engraved, John R. Stemple, Groveport, Ohio, and his original stampings. This is the standard Parkerized. your sling attachment points, your ejector, full welding on the magazine wells. Engraved on both sides. Close up of the driving bands on the bolt. And a good look at your extractor at the 2 o'clock instead of the dead center top 12 o'clock position. Other than the bolt, all parts are interchangeable with an original Smith & Wesson 76. Let's take a closer look at the sear again, what I was explaining before. If you pull the trigger all the way, it'll bury the sear. If you pull it just part way, the gun will fire, but then the sear's dragging on the bottom side of the bolt. You can make a Tommy gun misfire the same way if you're trying to shoot it like a match gun. It's a submachine gun. So bury the trigger. You can get 2-shot burst real well. This is the Bacon powder coat. Same thing H&K uses. All guns are Parkerized, and if someone orders the powder coat, then I powder coat over the Parkerizing. And again, this is your plunger for the barrel shroud retaining. Always hold it in when you're assembling and disassembling the gun. If you hear the ratchet, you're doing it wrong. You're just putting wear and tear on your gun. We'll go ahead and hook it back up again and we'll reassemble the one gun. Okay. Reassembly. Very simple. First thing, we slide the bolt in. I put my finger in the bolt, back into the bolt body to align the holes. Drop the handle in place. The bolt slides forward onto the sear. Pull the trigger. Slide the bolt all the way forward. You can go ahead and stand the gun up. Install the spring. I install the spring guide, then the end caps. Bring them both down so the holes line up. Slide your end cap in place. The bolt. Barrel down into the barrel. Screw it into the receiver. Push the ratchet all the way in and screw your barrel shroud on. Let go of the ratchet and that holds the barrel shroud in place for vibration. Okay, that's it. We'll go to live fire next.